Last summer, my girlfriend pushed us deeper into polyamory. She dated constantly, while I convinced myself I was fine. Then I met someone new, someone who made me feel alive again. And suddenly, my girlfriend, who had built her entire social life on dating, was furious. Her jealousy cracked open every compromise I had swallowed for years. When she left on vacation with her other partner, I faced the truth. I didn't want polyamory, I wanted respect. I began packing boxes, knowing the hardest part was still ahead. Do you break someone's heart mid-vacation? Or wait and let the silence speak first? When people talk about open relationships, they usually paint a picture of freedom, trust, and endless possibilities. For a while, I convinced myself I was living in that picture. My girlfriend was the one who brought it up first during the lockdowns. She said monogamy felt like a cage, that we were too young to shut every door behind us. I didn't love the idea, but I wanted to be supportive, so I nodded along. That nod became the foundation of the next few years of my life. At first, I told myself it was temporary, just a phase. She started dating immediately, filling weekends with new names and new stories. I stayed behind, the understanding boyfriend, waiting for my chance to catch up. I told myself I didn't mind, but the truth was sitting heavy in my chest. I wasn't built for this. Every time she left for a date, I'd feel the silence in our apartment louder than any music I could play. Months passed, then years. She thrived in our open setup, while I swallowed the resentment that came with every unanswered question. Why was I the one sitting at home? Why did my approval never feel like enough? Eventually, I forced myself to play the game too. I downloaded apps, went on awkward coffee meetups, and tried to convince myself I was having fun. Most of those flings fizzled before they started. And when I came home empty-handed, she never missed the chance to remind me how great poly life could be, if only I leaned into it. But last year, something shifted. Through a shared hobby, I met someone who wasn't just another date. She laughed at my dry jokes, remembered the little things I said, and, most dangerously of all, she saw me. For the first time in years, I felt like more than a placeholder. It wasn't just attraction, it was connection. And she admitted, gently, that she wanted monogamy in the future. That word hit me like a storm. Monogamy. The thing I'd been secretly craving. The thing I'd buried under compromises and silence. I didn't tell my girlfriend about it, because deep down I knew what it would mean. The first crack showed when my girlfriend found out this new woman wasn't just a casual fling. Suddenly, the same person who had demanded freedom couldn't handle me wanting more. Her jealousy wasn't subtle, it was explosive. She questioned my motives, rolled her eyes at my excuses, and made it clear, poly was fine when it served her, but not when I played by the same rules. I didn't know it yet, but that moment, the day she showed me her double standard, was the point of no return. Everything was about to change. Friday evening, the platform at the train station was buzzing with weekend travelers. Couples kissed goodbye, kids tugged on parents' hands, luggage wheels clattered across the floor. I stood there, helping my girlfriend with her suitcase, while she laughed into her phone at a text from the man she was about to spend the next week with. I told myself I was fine. I always told myself I was fine. But as the whistle blew and she leaned in to give me a distracted hug, already half gone in her head, I felt something crack inside me. She boarded, waved quickly through the window, and then she was gone. Just like that. I was left standing in the fading light, my hand empty, my chest tight. It wasn't the first time she had left for a trip with another partner, but this time felt different. Final almost. Like my silence had run out of excuses. On the walk back to my car, the thought that had been buried for months finally clawed its way up. I don't want this anymore. At first I tried to shake it off. I told myself it was just jealousy, just a bad day. But by the time I pulled into our driveway, my mind was racing. The house felt hollow without her. Yet instead of missing her, I felt relief. Relief that I didn't have to plaster on a smile or pretend I was happy for her freedom. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, running through every compromise I had made. Every time I had swallowed my discomfort to be supportive. I realized that what I'd been calling support was really self-erasure. I had been erasing myself for years. By morning, the decision was made. I started packing. Slowly at first, just a box of books, a bag of clothes. I told myself it was just in case, but my gut knew better. I called my parents, asked if I could crash for a while, and they didn't even hesitate. They must have heard the exhaustion in my voice. The second I taped the first box shut, a wave of both panic and clarity hit me. This wasn't a phase anymore. I was done. But here's the problem. She had no idea. She thought she was leaving for a fun, carefree week with someone who made her feel special. And I was about to blindside her with the end of a 6-year relationship. Part of me wanted to text her right away, to rip the Band-Aid off. Another part whispered, don't ruin her trip. Let her have this week. You can deal with the fallout later. As I sat on the edge of the bed we had shared for years, surrounded by half-packed boxes, the question gnawed at me. Was I being considerate or just cowardly? I thought it was a simple choice. But that moment, that hesitation, was the first step into a storm I couldn't control. By Sunday, the apartment looked less like a home and more like a waiting room. Boxes stacked in corners, drawers half empty, the coffee table littered with tape and markers. I had convinced myself that this was the responsible way to do it, quietly prepare, then deliver the news in person when she came back. But every hour that passed, doubt gnawed at me. My phone buzzed with her texts. Made it safe. Gorgeous view from the cabin. Wish you were here. Kinda, huh? I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the keyboard, trying to decide between a polite, glad you're safe, and the truth screaming in my chest. I'm leaving. Instead, I sent a smiling emoji. That single act, choosing silence, felt like lying. And once the lie was alive, it grew heavier by the day. On Monday, my parents asked me point blank, does she know yet? I shook my head, mumbling something about not ruining her vacation. My mom gave me that look only moms can give, half pity, half disappointment. My dad stayed quiet, but I could see the question in his eyes. Are you standing up for yourself or hiding again? Tuesday, my new partner called. She asked gently, did you tell her? The hesitation in my answer made the air between us thick. She sighed, not angry, just tired. I don't want to be your secret, she said. Her voice cracked just enough to make my stomach turn. That night, lying in the half-empty bed, I scrolled through old photos. Smiles at birthdays, road trips, lazy mornings with coffee mugs balanced on the nightstand. Each picture felt like a ghost tapping on my shoulder, whispering, you can't just walk away like a thief in the night. But then another thought pushed back. Haven't you been a ghost already? Silent, invisible, watching her live her best life while you erased yourself? By Wednesday, my chest ached with the weight of words unsaid. I couldn't escape the double bind. If I told her now, I'd shatter her trip. If I waited, I'd betray her trust. Either way, I'd look like the villain. That afternoon, my phone lit up again. Good morning, love you. The words hit me like a knife. Love? What kind of love lets one partner shrink so the other can shine? I put the phone down and pressed my hands into my face, forcing myself to breathe. My head spun with the same question over and over. Do I finally speak? Or do I let this lie rot until she steps off that train? The silence in the room felt louder than ever. And then something happened that forced my hand. Thursday morning, I woke up to the sound of a notification pinging on my phone. Still half asleep, I reached for it, expecting another bland, good morning text. Instead, I saw her name pop up in the group chat we shared with a few mutual friends. Photo from the cabin, her, curled up on the couch next to him, his arm draped over her shoulder, their faces pressed close in a way that was unmistakably intimate. Caption, our little getaway. My throat tightened. I shouldn't have been surprised. We had agreed to poly. She had every right to post that. But something about the casual, public nature of it, like I didn't exist, like I was just background noise, made my chest burn. I scrolled down and saw the comments. Friends cheering, heart emojis, jokes about how cute they looked. Each one was a pinprick. I realized then that if I stayed silent until she came home, the story everyone else would believe was that she had it all. The doting boyfriend waiting at home, and the passionate partner on her trip. I wasn't a person anymore. I was a prop. I dropped the phone on the bed, my hands shaking. For the first time, I didn't feel just angry. I felt erased. That afternoon, I drove to my parents' place again with more boxes in the trunk. While unloading, my dad finally spoke up. Son, you can't keep doing this halfway. Either tell her, or stop pretending you're leaving. The words hit harder than I expected. He was right. Halfway was killing me. Later that evening, my new partner called again. I heard the hesitation in her voice before she even spoke. I saw the photo, she said quietly. My heart dropped. She continued, I don't want to be the shadow. If you're serious about us, you have to stop hiding. Her words stripped away the last excuses I had been clinging to. This wasn't just about ending one relationship. It was about proving to the next that I wasn't going to repeat the same mistakes. I hung up and sat in silence for a long time. The photo still burned into my mind. It wasn't jealousy anymore. It wasn't even about her being with someone else. It was about the realization that I had become invisible in my own life. And once you see your own invisibility that clearly, you can't unsee it. That night, I opened my laptop and drafted the words I knew I'd have to say. Not a text, not a chat message. A plan. The moment she stepped off that train, I'd end it. Or so I thought. Because the confrontation that followed would not go the way I imagined. By the time her train was scheduled to arrive, I had rehearsed the speech a dozen times in my head. Keep it calm. Be honest. Don't backpedal. That was the mantra. I parked outside the station with my heart pounding harder than it should for someone who'd already packed half his life into boxes. When she stepped off the train, dragging her suitcase behind her, she wasn't alone. He was with her. She spotted me, smiled faintly, and gave a small wave. My stomach twisted. Picking her up had felt like a gesture of closure. Instead, it felt like an ambush. We rode back to the apartment in near silence. He lingered awkwardly at the curb while I carried her bag inside. As soon as the door closed, she sighed dramatically and flopped onto the couch. God, I'm exhausted. That trip was intense. She glanced at me, as if waiting for the usual nod, the supportive partner routine. But I didn't nod. Instead, I said, we need to talk. The air in the room shifted instantly. Her smile faded. She sat up straighter, studying my face. What's going on? I took a deep breath. I can't do this anymore. The open relationship, the poly, all of it. I've been pretending I was okay, but I'm not. I want something else. I want monogamy. And I don't want this relationship anymore. For a second, she just stared at me like I'd spoken another language. Then her jaw tightened. Wait, you're breaking up with me? Now, after everything I've given up for us. The word stung. Given up? I thought about the years of compromise, the nights alone, the silent resentment that had built into a mountain. I almost laughed at the irony. But before I could respond, she said something that caught me off guard. If monogamy is what you want, fine. I can do that. I'll slow down, even stop seeing the others. We can make this work. For a split second, I felt my resolve waver. This was what I had been asking for all along, wasn't it? Yet the way she said it, the way it sounded like a bargaining chip, not a genuine desire, made my chest tighten. Because deep down, I knew the truth. She wasn't offering monogamy because she wanted me. She was offering it because she was losing. I shook my head slowly. No, it's too late. Her eyes narrowed. So what? You're leaving me for her? That's what this is about. I didn't answer right away, because part of me knew she wasn't entirely wrong. And that silence, that hesitation, was all she needed to turn the breakup into a battlefield. The days that followed blurred together into a strange truce. After our initial blow-up, she seemed to soften. She stopped going out at night. She cooked dinner a couple of times, something she hadn't done in months. She even asked if I wanted to watch a movie together, curling up on the opposite side of the couch with a blanket. It felt almost normal. Almost. For a moment, I wondered if I'd been too harsh. Maybe she really could change. Maybe she meant it when she offered monogamy. There were flashes, her hand brushing mine as she passed a plate, the way she looked at me a little too long while we sat in silence. That made me think she was trying. But beneath those gestures, something didn't sit right. On Wednesday, I noticed her phone face down on the counter. Always face down. She'd slip into the bedroom for work calls that stretched for an hour. When she came back out, she'd smile like nothing happened, but her eyes carried that restless gleam I'd learned to recognize. One night, I asked directly, "Are you still seeing him?" She froze, then forced a laugh. "I told you I'd slow down. What more do you want?" It wasn't an answer. And that was the problem. My gut told me she wasn't letting go of her other partners. She was just hiding them better. The monogamy she offered wasn't a commitment. It was a performance. A play to keep me from walking out the door. Meanwhile, my own secret pressed heavier on my chest. I hadn't told her about my new partner. The woman who had already asked me to go monogamous. The woman I was seeing as my future while pretending to negotiate my past. Every time my girlfriend reached for me, guilt surged in waves. The house became suffocating. On the surface, we looked like a couple working things out. But inside, I was drowning in dishonesty, hers and mine. Then came the moment that broke the illusion. She stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, her tone sharper than she meant it to be. So, are you really going to throw away 6 years? For what? Some rebound fling? You think she's going to give you more than I have? The question sliced through me because it was the first time she named the truth. She knew. Maybe not every detail, but enough. And her voice wasn't pleading anymore. It was daring me. That was when the fragile peace shattered, and the war began. Her words hung in the air like smoke. You think she's going to give you more than I have? I froze, coffee mug halfway to my lips. There it was, the crack in the facade. She hadn't just suspected. She knew. Who told you that? I asked quietly. She smirked, arms folded tight across her chest. You don't hide it as well as you think. The late nights. The way you smile at your phone. You used to do that with me. Her voice wavered on the last sentence, but the bitterness was louder than the pain. I set the mug down. You've spent years with other people. You called it growth, freedom, exploration. But the second I connect with someone, suddenly it's betrayal? Do you even hear yourself? Her face flushed, anger sparking. Don't twist this. I never hid what I was doing. She jabbed her finger at me. You're sneaking around, moving boxes out while I'm gone, planning your escape like I'm some villain. At least I was honest. The volume of her voice rattled the room. For once, I didn't back down. You were honest about wanting everyone but me? I snapped. You were honest about pushing for Polly when I was barely hanging on. You were honest about your freedom, but you were never honest about what it cost me. Her lips parted, as if she wanted to fire back, but no words came. For a second, just a flicker, I saw her expression crumble into something raw. Fear, maybe even guilt. Then it hardened again. So what now, she spat. You ride off into the sunset with your little replacement? After everything I built with you? After 6 years? My chest heaved. I wanted to yell, to match her fury, but instead the truth slipped out softer than I intended. After 6 years of swallowing myself, so you could have more. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time, she didn't look like the confident, independent woman who thrived in polyamory. She looked cornered. And in that silence, I realized the worst part. She didn't want me to stay because she loved me. She wanted me to stay because losing me meant losing control. My hands trembled as I turned toward the door. I'm done, I whispered. Her voice cracked, sharp and desperate. If you walk out, don't come back. I paused, hand on the doorknob, heart pounding in my ears. And for the first time in years, I felt ready to call her bluff. I stood at the door, hand gripping the knob so hard my knuckles turned white. Behind me, her words echoed like a dare. If you walk out, don't come back. For 6 years, I would have turned around. For 6 years, I would have begged, reasoned, compromised. But this time, my body didn't move. My silence was the answer. Really? She snapped. That's it. You're just going to throw it all away for her. I turned slowly, meeting her eyes. No, I said, voice steady. I'm throwing it away for me. Her face twisted, the kind of expression that mixed rage with disbelief. You're pathetic. You couldn't handle Polly, so now you run off to some rebound who makes you feel like a man again? That's who you are. The venom in her words should have broken me. Instead, it felt like confirmation. Every insult she hurled was a reminder of how long I'd been living beneath her shadow. I handled it, I said, forcing calm into my voice. I handled it for years. While you went out, while you called it freedom, while you built your life on other people. I swallowed it all. And when I finally wanted something real, you couldn't stand it. Her fists clenched at her sides. You think she's going to save you? That she's better than me? You'll regret this. People like you always regret. Something inside me snapped, not with anger, but with clarity. I stepped forward, closing the space between us. This was never about her being better. This was about me finally admitting I deserve to stop living like I don't matter. She blinked, stunned, like the words had struck her harder than shouting ever could. For a second, I saw her mask slip, the fear behind the fury. Then she scoffed, shaking her head. You're delusional. You'll come crawling back. I opened the door. If I do, then maybe you were right all along. But I'm betting I won't. Her voice rose behind me, cracking under its own weight. You don't get to walk away from me like this. But I did. I stepped out, closing the door on 6 years of compromises, half-truths, and quiet misery. My legs shook as I walked to the car, but each step felt lighter than the last. For the first time, the silence wasn't suffocating. It was mine. And as I pulled out of the driveway, one thought pulsed steady in my chest. She might have been the loudest voice in our relationship, but I finally remembered I had one too. It's been a few weeks since I walked out of that apartment, and the dust is finally starting to settle. My stuff is stacked in my parents' spare room, and while it's not glamorous, it's peaceful. That's something I forgot peace could even feel like. I'm still with the woman I met through my hobby. We're taking things slow, careful, because neither of us wants to repeat old mistakes. But for the first time, I don't feel like I'm playing catch-up or living in someone else's script. I feel present. Looking back, I don't think my ex was a villain. She wanted polyamory, she wanted freedom, and she lived it fully. The real problem was me pretending I could live it too. Every time I swallowed my discomfort, every time I told myself I was fine, I was building the cage I eventually had to break out of. Walking away wasn't about punishing her. It was about finally choosing myself. And that's the part one hope sticks with me. Because sometimes the hardest truth to face isn't that someone else doesn't love you enough. It's that you didn't love yourself enough to walk away sooner. So here's my question. If you realized the life you built was more about keeping someone else happy than being honest with yourself, would you stay and try to patch it? Or would you walk out the door like I did?